I think of an Afro-Latino as a person who is visibly of African descent.
People want to embrace this Afro-Latino name, but they don't really embrace Blackness in any other parts of their lives.
Hi, my name is Bárbara Abadía Resach. I'm Afro-Puertorriqueña, Afro-Boricua, Afro-Latina, and I like to research about race and culture in Puerto Rico.
Hi, my name is Danielle Cleland. I grew up in New York. My family is from Puerto Rico, and I just moved to Texas from Miami. I work on racism and Black consciousness in the Caribbean. My first book was about Cuba, and now I'm working on 2 projects about Afro Latinidad in the US. And I identify as Black Latina.
Hi, my name is Omaris Zamora. I am born and raised in Chicago, even though now I live in Jersey, and I identify as a Black Dominicana from Chicago. And my work is about Black Dominican women living in the United States and theorizing around Afro-Latina feminism.
I'm sighted in Flores. I am a negra caribeña, born and raised in Puerto Rico, Dominican parents, so I'm a Kibo.
And we are Black Latinas Soul Collective.
Today we're going to answer the most frequently asked questions on Google about being Black Latinas.
And we're here to clarify all the bullshit that y'all be wondering about.
So now a lot of people have started using this term Afro-Latino, and now there's some kind of like, it's cool to be Afro-Latino. And so now I think a lot of people that may have not come and used the term before are using it. And some of those people are not Black, in my opinion. I think of an Afro-Latino classically as a person who is visibly of African descent, who experiences life as a Black person.
I think also, what happens is that people start using this idea that comes from, all of our countries that says, we all have African ancestry, we're all this mix, and so people want to embrace this Afro-Latino name, but they don't really embrace Blackness in any other parts of their lives. It's different, we might all have some kind of African ancestry, but what we're really talking about is kind of lived experience.
One of the difficulties is that people are now fearful of don't police Blackness, who defines who's Black and who doesn't. But I think, we act like we don't know who's Black, and then in real life, we all know who we think is Black. If society thinks you're Black, you're Black.
Que yo creo que muchas veces el hecho de que no hablamos sobre estos temas en nuestros países en Latinoamérica y tampoco en Estados Unidos como latinos, si nos están viendo como personas negras, pues somos negros y somos tratados como negros. Entonces tenemos que apoderarnos de esas identidades como un arma de reclamo, de denuncia, de nuestras experiencias que son bien singulares como personas negras. Pero parte también de esa premisa, de esa idea homogénea de qué se supone que es América Latina, que es una América Latina blanca o mestiza o clara, ¿verdad? Entonces por eso un poco la pregunta, ¿no? ¿Se puede ser latino y se puede ser negro? Por supuesto.
In the opposition, when people are out here claiming to be Afro-Latinos and they are not racially Black, it is a disservice to Black Latinos, to actual Black people's experiences. The actual Afro-Latinos, the real Afro-Latinos have to sit back and bite our tongues and I'm not gonna call that out because I don't wanna police Blackness, but I know that person is not Black and they're claiming something that is not theirs and it's erasing my experience.
Pero I think that there are people that will say they're Afro-Latino, but they won't say they're Black. And so I think, if you say, yes, I'm Afro-Latino, but you won't call yourself Black, cut it out, right?
Yeah. They think that Black is too political and they're not trying to be political because then they have to address que si Black Lives Matter, que si, white supremacy or whatever, et cetera, et cetera. No. That goes back to the idea to believe that, because some Latinos might have some Afro-descendancy, a Black family member, but they are not visibly Black. So not all Latinos are Afro-Latinos. Even if they can send their DNA to all these DNA companies, right? And they can be like, oh, look, I'm 5%, I'm 10%. That does not make you Black, right? We're not walking around the street here be like, oh, but I'm 10% Black or I'm 10% white. Give me my white privilege. That's just not how race works.
¿Y tu abuela dónde está? Wait, let me show you my daughter. Oh, wait, let me show you my a buscar tu abuela. If you have to make an argument, I don't have to go find anybody to explain that I'm Afro Latino.
It's not
Nobody.
about your abuela, it's about you.
Y tu abuela donde está has a lot of, different meanings because we're still dealing with a lot of anti-blackness, a lot of denial. That hasn't gone anywhere. So, y tu abuela donde está is usually referring to back in the day when, families would try to deny blackness or hide blackness. They would have, an abuela who is an Afro-descendant hidden somewhere. It's a phrase that's in English too, that comes from folks trying to hide, African ancestry. And so that's where it comes from. You say you don't have any Black ancestry, y tu abuela donde está, right? Show me your abuela because, you're hiding. And so that's where it comes from. But, we're also talking about it in the sense that, we shouldn't, be trying to point to some other relative or a distant relative to prove that we have this ancestry either, right? So it goes both ways.
We're all mixed. Like, really, race is a fiction. Race does not exist. It's only real as a social fact. It has real consequences. It's very real. We've all made it very real. The claim is for us to fight against the oppression that race is, and that's how identity comes about.
Y se convirtió luego en una canción de Ruth Fernández, que también tuvo que luchar contra esa identidad racial como mujer negra en Puerto Rico. También se dice el que no tiene de dinga tiene de mandinga, que es otra forma también de decir yo no soy racista, porque tuve un novio negro, porque en mi familia hay negros, porque mi mejor amigo, mejor amiga, etcétera, ¿no? El que no tiene de Congo tiene de Carabalí, así que son muchos dichos populares que se usan para suavizar el asunto y supuestamente no ofender a nadie con este tipo de preguntas. No te lo pregunto, pero sin querer queriendo, ¿no? No te estoy ofendiendo porque no te pregunto para saber, ¿no? Entonces es una forma también de la gente justificar y de no asumir su responsabilidad desde su poder y desde su privilegio también.
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
Especially among people that live in the US that maybe don't have a Latin American background, that this is the place that slaves were brought, from, or people were brought here, right, and then enslaved. But really, there were far more people that were taken and brought over here as slaves to Brazil, to Cuba, to Haiti, to Dominican Republic, to, Ecuador, Peru, all of these places that, we don't necessarily associate with Blackness. And then, there are places that, we associate predominantly white countries that also had slavery, like Chile, right? Like Argentina, like all of these, Uruguay. And then in Mexico, you had slavery up until a certain point too. And there are, Afro-Mexicanos también. So, there's a middle passage went throughout the Americas, and, slavery existed in all of these countries. And, Brazil is actually the country that has the largest number of Black folks.
Now we have the data from the slave ships, right, that crossed the Middle Passage. And Slave did this fantastic video where they had tracing the ships across the century, crossing the Atlantic. And there you see the volume of ships going south, right? Like from the Caribbean South and Central America, right? Like Nicaragua and Honduras and all these places that are not associated with Blackness, but Brazil, of course, the most. That shows 96% of those ships landed in the Caribbean and South America and Central America. So only like 4% went to North America. So, some people have tried to then calculate like what that means in terms of population. But the vast majority of Black people are in Latin America and the Caribbean. I mean, now with migration, that those numbers have shifted. In some ways, we're part of those Black migrations, right? We continue to move and be in other places. But some people think like, oh, Argentina, Chile, and even more that they ask us like, oh, you don't look Puerto Rican. Oh, you don't look Latina. Oh, you don't look, when like, it's like your first guess should be that I look Latina as a Black person before I look as if I'm from the US.
This question makes me so mad. I can't call myself Black without dividing other people. It's so ridiculous, and I don't really have an academic answer for this. It's the same thing as talking about racism is racist, right? Or talking about racism is divisive. We're all different. We have different ancestry. We come from different places, different experiences. Our skin colors are different, and that has all kinds of, consequences, social consequences attached to it. And so if I want to affirm my Blackness, or if somebody else wants to affirm their Blackness, why is that threatening to you? Because that's what it boils down to, right? It's threatening to somebody else. And so, no, the answer is no. And, we have to stop this because it's BS. It's divisive, right? When you tell me that I can't, assert my Blackness, now you're being divisive.
Sí, estas categorías raciales no las inventamos nosotras las personas negras, entonces la división no la creamos nosotros. Por ejemplo, pienso en el censo, ¿no? Y estas categorías que ya están impuestas, por ejemplo, en Puerto Rico como una colonia de Estados Unidos, las categorías son las mismas de Estados Unidos. Y cuando queremos hablar de que esas categorías no nos apelan a nosotras, la gente o empezamos a hablar sobre racismo antinegro en Puerto Rico, o etcétera, o incluso en Estados Unidos, ya que empiezan con las divisiones. Estas divisiones no las creamos nosotras. Así que lo que es divisorio es que tú me pienses a mí como diferente, o que me preguntes de dónde soy, o por qué tengo acento, etcétera, ¿no? O por qué luzco como luzco. Así que la división no viene de las personas negras, viene del poder que ha creado estas categorías para encajonarnos en unos espacios en particular.
I would say divisive for whom? Because they want to keep us silent. Like, I think that there is really an intention for us not to say anything because the order benefits whom? Like, it keeps the order, it keeps us silent, it keeps us hidden, it keeps us poor, it keeps us sick, it keeps us without access to resources and education. So I'm like, divisive for whom? Let's talk about the social realities of how our societies implement and maintain racial inequality, because the proof is all there. This reclaiming, it's a source of pride, but it's also about making change. So
I mean, the question just comes off as trying to silence. I try to teach some of my students about this particular fact when we're looking, for example, at Jose Marti, of CUBA, and some of his essays, and saying, we don't talk about racism here. We're all Cubans here. We're all, right, which we use it a lot. We see that rhetoric a lot. And, we're all Mexican here. We're all Brazilian here. So we don't need to be talking about race, because that means that, and it's a way of silencing. And back to Cider, when you were saying, it's a silencing that also keeps us without access, without being listened to, right, and reinscribes the same colonial hierarchies. Right? People who may ask or say, it's divisive, let's not talk about it, or you're part of the problem if you're bringing it up. You're just making it worse. I'm not getting healthcare, and I'm making it worse because I'm telling you I'm not getting healthcare because you're not paying attention to the pain that I'm feeling, because you think that Black people can just put up with more pain.
It labels us as acomplejados, like we have a complex. It's your problem. Hey, don't worry about that. Like, just accept that, you're looked at us as lesser than we are. Like, it labels us as sick, as demented, loco, somos unos locos. To talk about race, like, somos locos. Ay, qué acomplejada, cállate, por favor. Ay, ahí viene esta de nuevo a hablar de esto. Oh, just keep working hard. Do your thing. It's like, yeah, we'll do our thing too. But,
My favorite one is when I'm like identifying that some anti-Black shit is happening, and I'm explaining this to someone, and they'll just say, "Ay, ignóralos. Tú sí, ignóralos," and I'm like,
follow, like,